Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. And welcome to Positive Talk again, ladies and gentlemen. Rochelle's here. She's here, really here. That's her. How are you doing, young lady?
I am doing fantastic. It's been a beautiful day, and I'm so excited to have Tom Cronin here with us. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for inviting me along today.
And we had a lull today, and so Rochelle was finishing a book, and then she put the book down and decided to meditate. And then what happened, Rochelle?
Then I fell asleep. And it's become a pretty occurring thing. So trying to figure out how I can get myself into that state and not completely fall asleep. But once I wake up, I feel like I got a full night's rest. So it's pretty odd.
And just so everybody knows who Tom is, he's a coach, he's a speaker, he is a leader in meditation, he leads meditation retreats, and he's a filmmaker. And The Portal is the film that we are going to talk about a little bit. It is remarkable what you've done there. And if you go to his website, which is tomcronin.com, you can watch it for free. At least that's what it says, Tom. Am I right?
That is correct. Yeah, absolutely. We're gifting it to the world at the moment.
Oh, that is awesome. And I know it costs money to do. Why are you gifting it to the world?
That's a really good question. It has cost us a lot of money to do. It has quite a process. It's quite challenging, I must admit. Making a film about meditation was a lot more stressful than I ever imagined. Quite ironic, really. But yeah, things changed while we started that project. The idea was to rent that out on the internet. But when the streaming platforms came along after we started that project, that completely changed the landscape of how people consumed film content. Our house alone, we've got 5 streaming platforms, from Stan to Netflix to Apple and Amazon. So it was very hard at that point to inspire people to make a transaction to watch a film. So at this stage, we are on Gaia. We'd love to be on something like Amazon and Netflix. So if you're listening in and watching, give us a call. But at this stage, we just thought, let's just gift it to the world at the moment, and as a bit of an offering to humanity.
And I watched the trailer. Haven't watched the movie yet because I'm going to go back to do that this evening. But the premise of the movie is about helping people live their lives a little bit better, understand that there's a better way to go and a better way to do it. Am I close?
Yeah, we look at crisis as a device that the universe uses to inspire change. And, often we see crisis as something we're a victim of and something that's a tragedy to sort of recoil from. But what we open up as a premise is that individual crisis and collective humanity crisis is really a mechanism or an opportunity to adapt and to evolve and to do things differently. And in that film, we use meditation. The 6 stories that have all gone through crisis, real life stories, have used meditation as a way to be more guided and to be more adaptable, to make different choices and to maybe learn something through that crisis that they weren't able to learn before.
And Rochelle, do you have a question about meditation and all of that stuff? I know you do.
Yes, I do. Well, I'm wondering, Tom, because this is my first time ever getting to meet you, and I'm curious as to what started you down this journey and doing this path of work in the first place.
I guess, the film was inspired by my own personal crisis. I surprisingly ended up on a trading room floor, like very much Wolf of Wall Street, the same year as Jordan Belfort started his career as the Wolf of Wall Street. He was 22, I was 19, and it was 1987. And it was the wild west of finance markets back then. It was kind of crazy, out of control times. I don't know if you have this in America, but we have now HR departments and people and culture departments within organizations that keep things a little bit more regulated, in check, and a little bit more moral, I guess, and ethical. Whereas back in those days, it was kind of out of control. And that's the world that I entered into at a young 19-year-old. And things kind of I got swept along by the current of that type of industry. And before long, there was a lot of drugs, drinking, partying, staying up late, working hard. And that led to a lot of anxiety and panic attacks and depression in my life. And eventually things got really bleak and really dark. And that's where I found meditation. So meditation at the time, I came across it in the 90s, and it was something that really changed my life. It turned my life around in a big way. And it wasn't just any style of meditation. It was at the time called transcendental meditation, also known as Vedic meditation. And I just couldn't believe how much it changed my life. So eventually, over time, I became a teacher and felt that the best thing I can do would be to bring this to the world and inspire the masses to learn to meditate.
Meditation is something that a lot of people don't understand. They don't have any idea what the premise of it is. And if you grew up like I did in the Lutheran Church, which is Missouri Synod, very conservative, they thought it was of the devil and stuff. And so you're fighting those perceptions that are out there. And I firmly believe in what you're doing, and meditation is an important part of most people who are awake, I guess. That's very much part of their day. So how are you going through and educating people about what meditation is and why it can be so helpful in reducing stress and blood pressure and all kinds of different stuff?
Yeah, I really like the way you're approaching that, because meditation is really just a science-based methodology. If we want to take out all the woo-woo and spirituality of it, it's a science-based methodology to move the body and the nervous system out of the sympathetic nervous system state, that's a stress response, and into the parasympathetic nervous system, that's the peace response. So all respect to all religions. However, if you walk out of that church and then you've got some challenges in your day or in your career or in your family situations, which no doubt, whether you go to church or not, you're going to have those sorts of situations appear in your life at some point. Have you got the nervous system set up? Have you got the nervous system state to be able to navigate through those complexities in a way that doesn't get you completely riled up with high blood pressure and anxiety, not sleeping, insomnia, and cholesterol building because you're in a sympathetic nervous system state, which is a stress response designed for life and death situations. And the problem with a lot of the world is that we're staying in a sympathetic nervous system state, which has very depleted levels of oxytocin and serotonin, the biochemicals for love and happiness, and very high levels of cortisol and adrenaline. So we've got a lot of religious people around the world with high levels of cortisol and adrenaline. And simultaneously, unfortunately, if you've got cortisol and adrenaline in your bloodstream, you can't produce oxytocin, which is the biochemical for love, empathy, compassion, and kindness. So it's very hard to be compassionate, caring, kind, and loving if you're in a stress response. And we can have a lot of religious people in sympathetic nervous system because of a lot of situations that are happening in their lives that aren't able to actually be in the embodiment of the actual thing that their religion's talking a lot about, which is God being the essence of love. And so what I find is that when you meditate, the body very quickly moves into the parasympathetic nervous system, which means that it reduces the cortisol and adrenaline, and it increases the oxytocin and serotonin. And that's why we see people in states of inner peace having greater levels of empathy, compassion, caring, and kindness and lovingness. And so we really want to make it an embodied experience. So actually meditation and religions can actually go really, really well together, because it helps the people that are kneeling on the pews to actually be embodied in what it is their religion's talking a lot about, which is actually the state of being able to be loving, caring, and kind.
You know, it's interesting because a lot of people, they go to church on Sunday, and that's what they do. And then they leave church on Sunday, and then they go about their regular day. But I think the most important part is during the week, because I don't know about you, but Rochelle, in my world, stuff just happens during the week, and I might not be at church and I might not be around that. But you need to have a program and a system that you can utilize so that if something happens like that during the week, you can have a system, a meditation system perhaps, make that work. Is that kind of how it works? And Rochelle, does that work for you?
Well, Tom, I have to ask you this. So I don't think it was yesterday, but the day before, um, there was a few triggers that had happened within maybe 5 or 10 minutes of time that kind of just set the tone for my day. And I really was trying to focus on what I could do to relieve that and move forward into a different energy space. And it kind of just felt like I wasn't able to. And then I got very frustrated with myself, and going into that state didn't seem, I think it was the first time I haven't been necessarily angry. There wasn't anything that was actually wrong, but I was just so tense within myself and couldn't really figure out how to relieve that or what to do without just sitting through it. So do you think that was the best way to handle it, or was there things maybe I could have done to help me a little bit more through the day?
Yeah, look, there's two ways to look at this. Firstly, we want to look at prevention. So have we got a daily integrated practice that prevents or reduces that trigger response? So a lot of people, we're hearing a lot in our world today, I'm triggered, or you triggered me, or you made me feel this way. So what that means is that we've lost sovereignty and we're at the mercy of circumstances that dictates and determines what state we're in. It could be someone not liking one of our posts and commenting underneath that they didn't like what we said, or someone bringing us up and saying, you shouldn't have done this. Or so there are a lot of things that are triggering us. It could be something that a politician does. The next thing, we're getting angry and activated. So we firstly want to find greater sovereignty in our lives using a preventative measure. And that's where I suggest regularly, twice a day meditation. So recalibrating, resetting, claiming inner peace, and then that becoming more stabilized as we go about our days, where we become more peaceful as a general rule throughout day. And when things might pop up, we're able to observe that from a more free, independent space without that immediate emotional reaction to it. Secondly, what you're talking about is when we actually have that trigger, when we actually have that emotional situation. So I think you handled that really well by just sitting in it and just being okay with just feeling and being present with the sensations. Really, when we stop looking at what triggered the sensation and start looking at the sensation itself, we find that sensation just starts to melt away. It's like, oh, just sitting without distracting, without trying to numb it, without trying to run away from it. But just, wow, there's an energy in my body that is different from the one that I had before. And now there's these sensations of fear or anger or sadness, and just being really present with that. You can also explore some meditation practices if you've got them at your disposal that will help you start to melt away those sensations. But just being present with it is a really good approach to it.
Okay, well, thank you.
Yeah, well done.
And that is an exciting, it really is interesting because Rochelle does quite a little bit of meditation, but her mind is really active. And I've had people tell me, I can't meditate because I think too much and my mind is continuing to run and I just can't get it to stop. But you have systems and ways that you can help people stop that inner noise that continues ad nauseum. And a lot of it's not true anyway, right?
Yeah, look, I think if you've got an arm that's been in a cast for a long time and the muscles atrophy, so you've got very little bicep. Oh, look at that. You've got a great example. What have you done to your arm?
and I did this specifically so because of this show, and I knew that you were going to bring this up. So
you've got
here's
props. This is amazing.
My task. Yes.
Well, thanks for the prop. I appreciate that. So if there's a muscle that's atrophied because, like yours, the forearm has not developed or been used for a long time, and you say, oh, my muscle's no good, I can't use it. And so then because of that, you don't use it. But we would suggest, well, maybe you need to start using it. And that's lifting a repetitive dumbbell. And that will eventually develop the muscle. So with meditation, it gets the same approach in many respects. If you've got a busy mind and it's just constantly like a wild bucking bronco running around like crazy, then doing a daily meditation is going to actually not be easy, but it's certainly going to calm that down over time. And the more you do your meditation, the less chaotic and frenetic your mind's going to be over time.
Very true.
And that is, some people are going to say, oh, no, I can't do that. But you got to give it a try. And by the way, we're talking with Tom Cronin. Cronin, right?
Cronin, yes, that's right. It's an Irish name.
Perfect. He is, I said, an author, a coach, a speaker. He's leads meditation retreats. and he's a producer, executive producer or producer?
I was actually both. I was the EP and the producer as well.
He had two hats in addition to all the other hats that he wears. And we need to take our break, and we're going to come right back more with Tom and Brashell. And by the way, if you're a real estate agent, somebody ears just perked up. If you're a real estate agent and you really are having trouble figuring out how to make it all work, I know a guy who can help you. So we're going to play that right now, and so take the information down and use it. It will help you.
You became a real estate agent for freedom, success, and real momentum. So why are you still stuck waiting for closings to save you? I'm Ophir Adar, founder of Real Momentum, and I help agents like you become seven-figure earners. My first client that I coached, brand new agent, made $250,000 back in 2006. What's the secret? You feed your white wolf. That's the part of you that's bold and unstoppable and a closer and able to build rapport quickly. So click Get Listings at Real Momentum and let's unleash your real estate potential.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Brashell, Dancing Brashell over there. And my name is Kevin McDonald, and Tom Cronin is with us. And Tom, I wanted to ask you, because a lot of us get so wrapped up in our day, and it really is hard for us to settle down and to take a moment to meditate a couple of times a day. First of all, how long are we talking? What is a optimal amount of time to get your mind quieted to move forward? And is it in the morning or mid-morning, afternoon? How does it all work?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Look, there's no right and wrong. I think it's a matter of doing your research. The technique that I teach, we recommend ideally 20 minutes in the morning. So when you start your day, if you think about a tree, before a tree grows up, it grows down first. And it grows down for two reasons. It needs stability before it grows up, so it needs that root base to hold it firm, and it also gets nutrients out of the ground. So what we want to do is we want to start our day by not suddenly looking at our Instagram and going onto our TikTok and looking at our emails and looking at the news feed, but to actually get a deep sense of knowingness and presence within our own state. So a morning meditation, I think, is a great way to build your day. And then sometime you're going to fade through the day as you get more and more wear and tear on your nervous system. Your mind starts to fatigue because you're doing a lot of analysis and thinking. So something between sort of 4 and 7 is a nice afternoon time to do another meditation, I find, just to sort of recalibrate and reset. It's kind of like plugging your phone into the wall charger and rebooting the battery.
And by the middle of the afternoon, you've probably, if you're in the corporate world, you've experienced lots of things that you need to kind of divest yourself of. So that would make perfect sense. And Brashell, do you meditate on a regular? I mean, do you like work to do 20 minutes in the morning or in the afternoon, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, so this will lead me into my next question, but to share with you, Kevin, it's really a form of it that I've loved to use is to wake up and go to sleep thinking about what I'm grateful for and what I set my capability at. Like what am I going to set my limit for the day, and what am I thankful for that I have taken on, that I've learned, that I've been through. And sometimes, like the other day, it's just moments of being completely still, just being still and letting my mind race. I think that's something that people don't really learn often about being healthy. And I myself am barely learning the whole technique of it. And it's a little weird. But rather than just try to shut everything down and make it all go away and put everything in their boxes and organize it when you're to a point where you don't even have it in you to want to speak, what do you do with yourself? You sit and you allow it to happen and to come to you. And my question for you, Tom, is can you kind of give our audience a better view at how many opportunities and options there are when it comes to ways of meditation? Because I think it has this stigma that seems so stern when Kevin said, go, try it and do it. Well, how exactly does that work, and what does that mean? Because is it just would you frame it as a state of mind or a state of being or feeling? And what are different ways that people can feel like, hey, that could work for me?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So meditation is the process, it's the methodology. And there is many, many different methodologies to meditate. So for instance, one simple one that people could do is if they just close their eyes, and then when they're sitting comfortably in a chair in a safe place, not driving obviously, and bring awareness to the breath moving through the nostrils. And as the air moves in and as the air moves out, just start to notice there's a very slight cooling effect around the rim of the nostril. And what we're going to do here is, rather than letting the mind just run around rampantly on other things, we're going to bring the mind's attention to one single point, the air cooling the skin around the rim of the nostril. Now, this is going to be very difficult for the mind because it's going to get very bored. But with some diligence and with some discipline and with a little bit of force, keeping it on that single point, what you're going to find is that's going to calm your nervous system and calm your mind and bring you to the present moment. And it gives the mind something to zero in on and focus on. So that's what we call a concentration meditation. Anyone can use that for, I would suggest, 5 to 10 minutes, just to recalibrate and reset the mind's constant fluctuations into past and future. But what I actually teach is a mantra-based meditation called Vedic meditation or transcendental meditation. And that's a more involved process to learn. It's over 4 90-minute sessions, and I teach that in person predominantly, and people can still learn with me on Zoom, where they get a particular mantra or sound based upon how old they are when they learn. And I teach them how to meditate using that technique in a deeper way. But then there's lots of different other forms of meditation. They can go to YouTube and find lots of meditations. There's Calm apps and Headspace apps that they have meditations on. So I just think shop around, find a technique and a teacher that is relevant for you, particularly a teacher that is going to teach you ideally in person and give you ongoing support, because starting to learn to meditate isn't the end of the journey. It's just the start of the journey. You're going to need ideally some guidance from your teacher along the way.
And we've got a comment I want to share with everybody. And greetings, watching you live from somewhere in Kenya. And it's a great work you're doing with Positive Talk. You are my favorite program, and he is in Africa, in Kenya.
Hi, Samuel.
And he also wants to say hello to Brachelle and Tom. So
hey,
I think that's awesome. Now, I did want to ask you something about meditation that I've experienced in my own life, is that when you get to a certain point and you have set your mind aside and acknowledging what it says and then letting it go and letting it go and then letting it go, and then you get into a little bit deeper meditation, and then Tom, I hear voices. Do I need medication? Because and what I'm saying is that I will get occasionally, if I have been thinking about something, and I'll get messages, and the messages are not self-induced, because the message may be something that I'd never considered before. And stuff. So is that part of it, when you open yourself up and you clear the clutter to allow your guides and your angels and the universe to participate with you in your life, or even a discussion of something that has been bothering you? Does that ever happen?
Yeah, I think it's beautiful what you're saying there, because there's such an important component to what it is to be human. And we have these internal guidance systems. A friend of mine made a film called PGS, which is Personal Guidance System. And the thing is with the guidance system, imagine you've got this beautiful Beethoven symphony playing here. You've got this loud, blaring Metallica playing on full bore over here. And that Beethoven will be there, but you won't be able to hear it because you've got this really loud cacophony of noise from Metallica. Nothing wrong with Metallica, guys, but just if it's loud and it's, it's going to blare out this beautiful Beethoven. Now, if you turn down the volume of the Metallica to 0, then you're going to go, wow, I didn't know that there was this beautiful Beethoven symphony playing over here. And if you think of the word silent, you rearrange the letters, you get listen. And to listen, you need to be silent. And that communication is always there. These guides, this intuition, this beautiful communication from the divine or God is wanting to communicate to us, but we just can't listen to it. And even Jesus himself said, be still and know that I'm God. So the knowing of God comes from stillness. And so this is such an important part of why we need to have meditation and stillness in our day.
Would you repeat that? What word was that again? That goes from it to listen?
Silent and listen have the same letters.
Wow.
Now that's a great beer game.
Powerful.
Right, you'll win lots of money in that game. I can tell you that right now. But Michelle, what do you think?
I'm amazed. I've never really looked at it in, I guess, that exact perspective. And I love how you shared about focusing on just that one thing, which was breath. Lately in my life, going through things, it's heartbeats for me. I have a connection to heartbeats, and it's crazy how when I start to lose track of focusing on my heartbeat, it starts going faster and it gets my attention again and kind of brings me back. And it's teaching me that staying sturdy in cycles of whatever's coming in and whatever's going out in my life can't really shake me or push me or pull me, but it is okay and it is valid for how I'm feeling, what I'm going through. We had an experience yesterday with Kevin and someone else, and the way he handled it just taught me so much. It was so beautiful and so powerful because on my end, my initial human reaction was like, ah, like I just kind of wanted to like attack. And
Yeah, she did.
And in his mind, not only did he validate the other person and how they were feeling, how they thought about the situation, but then said, hey, this is where I'm also coming from. Try to see this and understand it. Or even just respect it if you don't understand. But it taught me so much, and there was so much power in that moment because the difference of reacting and responding, and I would kind of almost relate that to a space of meditation. Is when you're in that space, you don't have it in you to really react because you're not like you're grounded and you're more solid with yourself. So things can't really pull you or take you away from what you're focused on through the day. And I think that's pretty important with probably doing it when you wake up, right?
Yeah. Look, there's a Sanskrit phrase called Sakshikutashta, which means the silent witness. And through regular, consistent meditation, we start to be able to operate from that silent witnessing, which is just conscious awareness, witnessing and being present in this moment, because really that's the only fundamental reality we ever have, which is this moment. And so what Kevin, by the sounds of it, did yesterday was to be in this beautiful state of calm restfulness and to be able to navigate through that complexity, that situation, without being entangled in that person's emotional state, but having sovereignty in his own emotional state, in his own state of being, and then bring that situation to a more elevated and calm, state. Unfortunately, what we've got is even on a global level, we've got one angry leader or one angry group of people wanting to, barrage someone else, and then they get really angry, and now we have conflict, and that conflict can lead to world wars. And so we have to be really careful that what happens in the microcosm of our own individual personal lives doesn't escalate into something bigger, which is kind of almost happening on the planet because we've got so many people being triggered and being angry about someone else and what someone else has said that it's leading to planetary conflict. And we want to be really careful that we don't slip ourselves into that.
There's a mindset that I'm becoming more accustomed to using, which really is, I get you, I understand, but that doesn't affect me. And I want to educate you a little bit so that you understand why we do what we do and the value that it has and the energy that it brings and all of that she did not get. That was fine that she didn't get it. But I was able to say it calmly and succinctly, which is unusual for me, and to make it actually work really well. And it's just as you get I'll give you an example. I meditate 2 times a day, 5 days a week, because every time I do this show, I'm not thinking about getting the groceries. I'm focused on the conversation that we're having and listening to you, so that I can ask intelligent questions, which Rochelle's going to do right after the break, so that I can help people. And Rochelle's learning this. When we come back from the break, we should talk about that, Rochelle, because you're also learning that you get questions that you don't even know that you have before until you ask them, because the question doesn't come from you, because you're in a place where you're accepting stuff from other sources. And by the way, again, we're talking with Tom Cronin. And when we come back, I mean, he does such amazing work. Please go to his website, which is tomcronin.com. You can find out about his coaching. You can hire him as a speaker. He's a meditation coach, and he does some great meditation retreats. If you've never done a meditation retreat, you have to go do one. They are the most remarkable shared experience had by a bunch of people, and it's just something. So Tom Cronin's our guest, and we need to take our station break. We will be right back in just about 1 minute and 10.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
When the game is on the line, championship teams know the game plan. They communicate and work together to win. We all need a game plan to protect ourselves online. Talk to family and friends so they know how to stay safe too. Create strong passwords, turn on multi-factor authentication, update software, and recognize and report phishing, because online safety is not something you want to fumble. Get more game-winning tips at CISA.gov/secure our world. Then share them with family and friends.
And welcome back to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Michelle is here, and she's actually been elevated. I don't know if everybody knows this, but whenever she's here, she's the host of the program. And so, Michelle, you have a question you'd like to ask Tom? Feel free.
Yes. So it kind of, what you asked before, Kevin, I want you to really hold on to that, because that is a deep dive question that we should talk about. But I just wanted to cover kind of taking it back to when an emotional state is. I've heard a lot of people say, well, if you're meditating all the time and you're always calm, then they assume you don't have happiness, you don't have joy, you don't have, I always say I'm delusional. If I get too tired, too hungry, and too thirsty all at the same time, I am just like this goofy little animal. Some people think that you don't really get sad and you don't allow yourself to ever be angry. How would you explain to them that that's not true, and how it is healthy to still have those emotions?
Yeah, it's a really good question, isn't it? Because one thing that is emerging a lot more and more is this discussion around spiritual bypassing, which is where we're avoiding being able to, be in the emotion and sort of transcend that into a spiritual experience. So firstly, I've been meditating for 30 years and I still will cry. I will still get frustrated or still get impatient at times. What I find is that the impact and the length of that becomes less and less and less. So it's just that I'm less influenced and less charged and I guess pulled into the stories of life, and managing to maintain more and more levels of peace. And what we've got to really do is appreciate the brilliance and the wonder of what peace is. Inner peace. Peace is when we look at the vibrational frequency of that. So we've got all feelings have hertz, Hertz, of a measurable frequency. So shame and guilt around 20 or 30 hertz. We've got anger around 40 to 60 hertz. We've got fear, very sub, 100 hertz. And then as we go up these frequencies, which are vibrational states, we do get into these really high vibrational states, which is love, joy, peace. And then eventually enlightenment is around 700 to 1000 hertz. So peace is one of the highest frequencies that we can experience as a human. It's one of the highest vibrations. We would consider that to be love, bliss, and joy. That's what the state of peace would actually feel like. And yet no one's subscribing to peace. We're like, you want to be happy, which is a response or an emotional reaction to something good happening in your life. But then that's going to lead to sadness. And then we don't want sadness, so then we'll go and take medication or alcohol. And so we're constantly trying to crave these sensations, which leads to negative sensations, which leads us to numbing the sensations. And now we're in this sort of messy state. So there's nothing wrong with having the experience and the emotions, and they're going to happen because that's just part of the human experience. But also what we can also experience in amongst that is more and more levels of peace. And peace being something that I think is not really sought in most humans, because most people are listening to Spotify, watching Netflix, taking alcohol, going on their phones, to not have peace. The whole point of those experiences is to erode peace so they can have stimulation. But really, peace is, if we look at anyone that's in an enlightened state, they have incredible levels of peace. And because they have incredible levels of peace, they have incredible levels of joy, love, and bliss as the essence of what peace is. So I think there's a lot of merit in subscribing to attaining peace.
Wonderful. That was beautifully explained.
Yes, it really was. And it's important to recognize that in our world right now, for whatever reason, there's a lot of hate, division, and fear. And if you are caught up in that, but you don't like being caught up in that, then meditation is a great way for you to get through that and by it, isn't it?
I think as well as that, we're talking about hate and division, but for me, more importantly, is well-being. And Dr. Bruce Lipton from Stanford University Medical School says that 95% of all sickness is a result of stress. And when you have, I think at the moment, 50% of Americans on medication, we have to really look at this dependency on putting tablets and big pharma to try and help you maintain well-being. But if you look at the state of peace, when we get peace, what happens is the body is an ecosystem. It's a biological system. And that biological system works really efficiently and really well when we have peace in the body. And if you take the broken leg as an analogy, when we have a broken leg, which is actually broken because of activity, movement, soccer, cricket, rolling down a hill.
Falling down.
Yeah, falling down. So movement will lead to the damage. But what do we do when we get a damaged leg or a damaged forearm? We put a cast around it. Now, the cast is not fixing the arm or the leg. The cast is creating stillness. It's creating peace. So we need peace for that to heal. Because if you don't have peace, then that can't heal. So the peace is actually healing the body. And this applies to the entire body. When we have more peace, we have a healthier body. And we have a lot of sick people in the world because of this constant emotional reactivity and hyperstimulation. So when we calm the mind, calm the nervous system, calm the body, yes, we'll have less conflict, but we'll actually, more importantly, have healthier people.
No, the damned of it is that there are people on the planet that have lived in my lifetime who have tried to do make love work, and love is all you need, and of course that's from the Beatles. And John Lennon did Imagine, and he also did Give Peace a Chance, because we were in the middle of the Vietnam War, and he was actually ridiculed for wanting to have peace and wanting to promote peace amongst everybody. And he did meditation, as does Yoko, and stuff. So why is it that you think that when somebody says, I want to be truthful, I want to be kind, I want to have love and peace in my heart, why do you think that there are other people that say, oh, what the hell's the matter with you?
Yeah, everyone's coming from their own state, their own inner state. And so what we think, what we say, what we do is an expression of our vibrational resonance. So if your current frequency in your body is anger, then what you say, think, and do will be an expression, a movement from that resonance, from that energy. And so it's not about you're wrong, I'm right, your way is better than my way. It's about really, like you said yesterday with that lady, you paused and you understood how she's feeling. And that's a really beautiful state of empathy and compassion. And it's not like, it's about being able to appreciate and understand where everyone's at, meet them where they're at, and then see if we can support them through that. But if someone is in a state of peace and someone is in a state of anger, and they're angry about the person who's in a state of peace, then it must be really hard for them to be in a state of anger. And there's some compassion there, because they're not experiencing one of the highest vibrations, which is peace. So how can we support that person to find a way to release and clear that anger so that they're no longer having poor physical health, because it's not going to be good for their physical body, but also make bad decisions, because bad decisions usually come from someone in a state of anger.
Well, and referencing that situation we had yesterday, she made several comments that were designed specifically to trigger this old fella and to make me feel like to make me feel less than and stuff. But there's a certain point in time when, if you understand who you really are, and I've been working at this for a very long time, but if you understand who you really are, what somebody else thinks of you doesn't matter. That's their opinion, and they're not all that bright anyway. Okay, maybe they are, but is that kind of how it played out a little bit, Rochelle?
Yeah, and it makes me think of something like, Tom, don't we have to be careful in our meditations? Because if we're going into the meditation with one intent and coming out with another, could we possibly be manifesting negative things for ourselves?
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. We need to be very mindful of what we think, what we intend, what we want to create. And I think it's really important to understand that meditation isn't firstly a cure-all. It's a process that I integrate in my life, along with going to the gym and doing saunas and ice baths and drinking the right amount of clean, fresh water and all sorts of things, as a holistic approach to having an optimal human experience. And really what we've got to ask is, are we having an optimal human experience? And if not, then what do we need to do to get there? But when we start meditating, what can happen is we can start clearing stresses. And some of those stresses can be deep traumas that we've accumulated either partly in this lifetime or partly you've inherited them from your parents. You know, no doubt your mother or your grandmother or your grandfather went through some traumatic times, and energetically and genetically that could have been passed on into you. And you might be carrying something that might be a couple of generations old in some form of trauma. And you might not even know that you're carrying that, because we didn't come into this world with a blank canvas. We came in with a genetic disposition, the color of our eyes, the shape of our nose, the type of hair color, and also sometimes personality traits and dispositions as well. The way we think and the way we feel can be influenced genetically as well. So this is a long-winded way of responding to that question, but I think we need to be mindful that it's a complexity that we're in. And it's not just all of a sudden that you're going to be in this enlightened state of peace, but, you know, there's lots of things that unfold as a result of this purifying process of meditating and doing other things like breath work and saunas and ice baths as well.
Because over time, you will develop, like you said, you'll develop these muscles that can really take you on a remarkable journey with yourself. Now, when you go into a meditation, should you go into it with a specific question like, why does my ex-wife hate me, or something like that, and see what comes up? Or should you keep your mind absolutely open and let what happens happen?
I like that. You could definitely have some level of intention or curiosity. It doesn't mean you're going to get the answer. So I think having those, I guess, impulses of curiosity can be relevant to have before a meditation, and then just see what comes from the field. Because we've got to remember that everything that's ever designed and created, like this little mouse here, or this glass frame, or this iPhone, that was all created out of the field of possibility. The field of infinite possibility has all solutions and all things that are ever created in it, which means that everything that's going to be created in the future is still in that field right now, which is really exciting to think about. What can we pull out of that field of infinite possibility and start creating? And so solutions to your questions is in that field right now. And our mind is very limited as far as what's inside the brain. But the beautiful thing about the brain when we meditate is we open up to the field of intelligence that's outside of the brain. And that's where we start to really tap into, like you said earlier on, about these voices, or this communication that comes through. And so we get a lot of creative impulses that happen during our meditation, and sometimes you'll get the answers to the questions.
Do you, if you are, I mean to take a break, but then, because I'm asking this for Rochelle, because she's a bit of a psychic one. And when you go into a meditation, if you have psychic tendencies or are learning to do that, do you have a different experience rather than if you're just meditating? We're talking with Tom Cronin, and go to his website, which is Cronin.com. We need to take a quick break, and we'll be right back, and we'll see if I remember the question that I just asked on the other side.
I remember it.
Rochelle remembers, don't you, Rochelle?
Yes, I do.
Okay. You're going to ask that question when we come back, because I have no earthly idea. They just pop up, and they just kind of go away. Anyway, so we'll be right back.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
Kevin,
What?
we can't hear the music.
You can't hear the music?
No, the whole show we haven't been able to hear the music.
can't
So
hear that?
welcome back to Positive Talk, everybody. No,
What in the hell is going on? Are you serious?
we'll figure it out. Yeah, I'm so serious.
Oh, no wonder Tom was sitting there going, okay, what are we doing here? And why are we doing this?
I just figured it's part of the theme. We have more silence.
Yeah, we're creating peace.
Yeah.
What in the hell is going on? I'll have to figure that out. Anyway, Rochelle, the question I asked that I've totally forgotten about now because I'm worried about why the music isn't playing.
I never forget your questions, but this time I did because I realized my headphones were dying, and that was pretty blanking to my mind. So, Tom, do you happen to remember the question Kevin asked?
I remember what it was. If you're meditating and you're developing a meditation style and meditation skills, and you are a little psychic, and does that give you a different experience as if when you are just learning how to meditate, and do either one actually at the end of the day matter?
I think it doesn't matter. I think it is what it is, and we just accept it for what it is. But I definitely think there are some people that have greater psychic and medium capability. So mediums is people that can tune into people who have passed across and transitioned to the other side that have passed. And what I have found is that there are some people that when they meditate, they increase their psychic and medium capabilities. So this is really clearing the clutter of the, like we went back to, clearing the clutter of the noise of the mind and all the cacophony of thoughts, and opening the mind up to, we see that the third eye, which is this intuition, psychic capabilities get developed, and the calcification of that third eye starts to get dissolved as we start to realize the potential for us to get these psychic capabilities and mediumship capabilities. So definitely that's something that we see as a result of meditation, but some people do get the greater capacity to communicate with the spirit world and the subtle worlds, which is really interesting. It's not something that I've experienced as far as certainly mediumship, but I do get some sort of psychic capabilities, like little intuitions, and it's like you might sense someone going to call you, and then next thing they call you, or you might be thinking about someone, and then they pop around the corner, and things like that happen, and you'll see more and more of that happening when you start meditating, for sure.
I think that's really true. Rochelle, go ahead, because I know that you are a bit of a psychic medium, and you've seen things and seen people and stuff. So, does meditation help you? Does it calm you down? Does it bring you back down when you're feeling, because when you're feeling really out of it?
So this is something I'd love to share with people. I don't know if it's supposed to work this way, but it does. And I have challenged other people who have busy minds like me to try it. A lot of people think, okay, you go into meditation and you stop thinking about everything. You don't focus on anything. You have no feelings, thoughts, this and that. And that's not what it is. For me, a lot of times I go into meditation when my mind is in that space because it allows me to put myself in a safe space to allow all of those thoughts to kind of run wild and do what they do. Because, like you said, Tom, as you let yourself kind of just go through the motion, it also dissipates on its own. And each time you go through it, it gets a lot easier. And sometimes you really don't even have to do it again. It's not this huge complicated thing. You don't have to have a space and a stool and a this and a that. I mean, you can be a person who can meditate anywhere you go, from outside to inside, up or down. You can be somebody who has a specific chair or a really nice blanket or something like to hold. It's those things I think that people get really wrapped up in the whole idea of, well, when you go into meditation, you're just still. And what I've learned more from allowing that to not try to shove all those things down and letting them work their way through things is when I am in normal states, just doing my regular things and my subconscious takes over. My subconscious allows, can see signs that it didn't before to where I snap into it and I'm like, hey, this is how to handle this situation, or this is what's going on. And I think it's created the subconscious to be more connected to what I choose. That's the beauty of it, is it's not just connected to something, it's connected to what I choose and my focus is. So even when my subconscious is getting me through my day, I'm constantly having moments where I'm stopping and I'm like, wow, this present moment is absolutely beautiful. And if it is not, how can I bring myself back into a space of just, hey, like, we get to take a breath right now, and some people are scared they might not today. So just kind of reminding myself of those thoughts and setting where I'm available to be, because my intuition now kind of does scare me a little bit, but it is very fascinating.
Why does it scare you?
I think it's because I'm trying to figure out, I've never been asked a question like that.
I
It's
know.
it's because there's a space in me that is trying to figure out sometimes where exactly a sense or a feeling is coming from. And whether it's like, because there's times where I walk past a rock, Tom, and I'm like, oh my God, you have to turn around, you have to pick up that rock. And it's not that necessarily maybe something bad is going to happen, but I've noticed in those states to allow it to, don't let it be stressful. It's okay, just turn around, pick up the rock, and continue on, and you'll get the answer later. But there's those moments of like, I almost get, I don't even know how to put it into words. It's more of just like it's just this little moment of, oh, I'm stuck, and then, oh, okay, it's okay, because I know what's always happening, and sometimes I can feel or sense things, and it's hard to really just be like, okay, like, no matter what that is, I have me. Does that make sense?
Yeah, maybe it's I've got an intuition to get my charger for my computer because it's about to run out of battery. But I think also
go ahead.
maybe it's a process of having more faith and trust in that intuition being relevant. And when because fear really is an absence of trust. And when we develop greater trust that there is a guidance system that is moving through us and working for us. And we have religions all around the world that get on their knees in bowing down to this intelligence. And one thing we start to learn as we develop these capabilities is this cognition and realization that that intelligence is moving through us. And so intuition is part of the process of that intelligence moving through us. Pick up the rock, and having trust in that ability to hear that, listen to that, and respond to that. And it's something as humans we're not very good at listening to and not very good at tuning into, because we're so caught up in our thoughts and our feelings and our busyness of our lives. But, for someone like yourself who is quite adept at this, the only next step for you is just to really deepen your trust in that, deepen your faith in that, and deepen your relationship with that, because it is a beautiful, wonderful gift that you've got.
Well, I know we're about to run out of time. I just have to ask you this very shortly, as much as possible. I know you're right, because I have the question go through my mind all the time. You sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? Are you sure? And even if I am trusting it, what can I be replacing that with? Just okay?
Yes, okay, and thank you. Yes,
Okay.
okay, and thank you. Yeah, thank you. Just acknowledge it with gratitude, because it's it's a beautiful ability to tune into that information flow of source. Some will call it the divine or God, that is guiding us and moving through us. And sometimes it doesn't make sense. Some of our life experiences just don't make sense. It's like, why is this happening to me? And afterwards, when we trust the process and know, okay, this is not how I envisaged things to plan out. This is not what I expected. This is not really what I wanted to see happen, because the universe sometimes will give us what we want, but more often than not, it will give us what we need. And what we need and what we want are two very different things, like what Kevin's got right now. It might be, I'm gonna force you to slow down. So I'm gonna cause a situation for you to it's not what you want, but it's what you need.
And for that specific moment in time, that is exactly what needed to happen in my world, for a number of reasons. But Tom Cronin has been our guest, and Tom, I know you got to go because you got another engagement coming up. And so, but give us all your information, anything that you would like us to know, with a final thought before we let you escape out of here.
Well, I'd love for people, if they feel compelled, to come and reach out to me on Instagram. It's a place I find it's very easy for messaging and contacting people. So Tom Cronin is my Instagram handle. You can go and follow me there, and you can get on my website, tomcronin.com. So if you want to come on my retreats, we've got one happening in Bali. We have coaching if you need some support. But yeah, come to Bali. I think you both will enjoy that.
Tom, did you have to say that?
You will love it. Hey, look, it's going to be a terrible time. We're going to eat amazing organic food and go into water temples and get purified.
Tom, that has been a goal of mine for well over a year. I've been telling Kevin, and Kevin, now I have to go. You see?
You have to go.
I see.
Timing is everything. Yes.
So Tom, thank you so much. Go to his website again, tomcronin.com. And thank you, Tom. Go. I know you've got another meeting and you got to go to, and they're going to say, why are you late? And you're going to say, because they wouldn't let me go. But now we're going to let you go. So
thanks very much.
Have an awesome day, young man.
Lovely to meet you both.
Tom.
And thanks for listening in, everyone. Have a great day.
Bye.
Great day. Bye.
So now you're going to want to go to Bali to see him. I'm telling you.
Let's go. Remember, all week. So for anybody listening, my motto for the week is I challenge you to just stop in moments where you are having just a happy moment and say happy, happy, happy out loud. And if you're even willing to do it and look at yourself in the mirror, the endorphins it causes in your brain will seriously change your mood almost instantly. And you'll notice a change in everyone around you. So there's a little challenge for the week, and I'm doing it myself. So maybe I'm just crazy.
No, you're not. You are. And some of the questions you asked are just wonderful. You are part of my little entourage, and one of these days it's going to be Positive Talk with Rochelle and that other guy. So that's the way. So I want to thank you, my dear. You've been remarkable today, as always. Anything you'd like to add before we go, dear?
Just remember, happy, happy, happy.
I could just see somebody in their car going, I'm not going to do that. That guy's going to think I'm crazy.
Do it. I dare you. I double dog dare you. Say it out loud.
Happy, happy, happy.
Yeah.
That's it. Okay. I got it. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this presentation of Positive Talk on the Brushwood Media Network and elsewhere. And we'll see you again very, very soon. Trust me in that.
Love you. Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Our purpose is to provide everyone with a positive, entertaining, and educational experience. I would love your feedback and comments about the show, including possible topics and great guest suggestions. Please email me at kevin@kmmedia.pro. And remember, be kind to one another because each other's all we've got.